None of this would have happened. Inflation wouldn't have.
All right. Grace, mercy, and peace from him who is and was and is to come very soon, I'm certain. This is Rogue Diabetic, and welcome to the digital wilderness. Okay, so today, I promised you guys a breakdown of Sioux City, of what happened up in Sioux City. I think what I'm going to do instead, and I did do one for BitChute, so if you want to check it out, check out my BitChute. It's ROGUEDIABETIC. That's Rogue Diabetic. Okay, I have to be careful about linking stuff here on YouTube, so you'll just have to search Rogue Diabetic and use the channels filter, and then you'll be able to see my uncensored content. Now, tonight, what I'm going to do for you guys on YouTube, and if you're not subscribed here, I want you to subscribe. But I want you to subscribe in both places, because if I get enough subscribers, I can start doing live streams. If I get enough people coming into these live streams, then I can do other. Then I can live stream on my phone. There's a lot more. I'll have a lot more options as far as like getting some content out to you guys that you'll like. And so what I want you to do here, is I'm going to listen to this speech. I'm probably going to back it up to the beginning again. And I'll just come in and out when I find something noteworthy to talk about. Okay, and before we get started, I just wanted to point out a few things. This is CNN News 18, and what they do, he gave this speech days ago. I can't remember how many days ago. It's the 7th, but they record his speeches. This particular outlet records his speeches, and then they loop it, and then they put it out. Then they put it up live, but it's a looped recording. Okay. And this is like one of the fakest fake news channels out there. Okay, because they do like clickbaity stuff like this, where they kind of try to present it like they're just reporting, and like they're reporting it in real time, but they're not. Okay, and they're like, but unlike RSBN, they present it without the commentary from the from the crowd, or from the reporters, or anything like that, or the commercials for My Pillow or Trump Steaks or whatever. So, but this outlet's name is CNN-News 18. Okay, so they want to, and when I very first came across this channel, I was like, I was like, is this CNN? Because this seems like this is like they're trying to like pirate CNN, like the real CNN's name, like they're trying to pimp their name, And then it's News 18, and 18 is coding for 666. Okay, 3 times 6 is 18, so this is 666. Whenever you see Trump do this, I haven't seen him do it for a while. Do the 666, do this. Hold on. Okay, you see. Do this, and then start at put your index finger together with your thumb, and then you can trace it 6, right? 6 6. That's what this is. When you see Trump using this hand sign all the time, he's telling you who he is.
Obliteration, because the level of power, of weaponry, of power, you've never seen anything like. You don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. When they talk about global warming, because in 250 years our ocean's going to be 1/100 of an inch higher, and they never mentioned the power of nuclear weapons, where.
Okay, so this is the same tired rhetoric that Republicans, every Republican. I mean, he takes a little bit nastier, meaner tone, but this is the same rhetoric that Republicans have been spouting for at least it's the Bush administration. At least when they shifted the environmental narrative to global warming before they changed it to climate change. But back in the 90s, it was like the ozone layer and save the rainforest. That was what the environmentalists were screeching about back then. But then in the late 90s, they shifted to global warming, and the Bush administration stock line was, yeah, maybe the globe is warming, but it's, mostly in Siberia, and who gives a shit? It's not getting, yeah, it might raise the oceans 1/100 of an inch, but it probably, it'll be over decades, and we probably won't even notice it. Okay, and let me tell you something, you guys. That's the wrong way to go about this. Okay, and this is typical of the way the Republicans have always operated. They've never made the right arguments. They never challenged the underlying assumption that the globe is warming. Okay, the liberals never proved it. The left, they come up with all these wacky ideas about like the globe is warming, and they act like it's science, and it's just pure stupidity. Okay, how would you even quantify whether the globe is warming or not? I mean, I don't know, because like right now, I mean, and that's like and this is assuming we're living on a globe, which is already a mistake. Okay, that underlying assumption is something that everybody, that if you're listening to that, challenge it. And it's harder than it used to be because they've buried a lot of the best evidence that the globe isn't a globe. But even if you go by the assumption that the globe, because maybe that's too hard for you to challenge that assumption. But if you accept that assumption, then at least challenge the assumption that the globe is warming, or that it even could warm, or whether there would be any way to measure it or stop it, and then it's related to carbon emissions. Okay, and it's ridiculous. Okay, take for example the sea level rise issue. There would have to be dozens of degrees, because the ice on the polar ice caps at the North Pole is floating. There's no land underneath that ice. Okay, the sea ice, and the land and the ice at Antarctica, which is allegedly an island on the bottom of a ball. Okay, that sits the ice down there is on top of land, allegedly. Okay, and so you would need dozens of degrees. So melting the polar ice caps on the north isn't gonna cause any sort of sea level rise. And melting it on the bottom, you would need dozens of degrees of warming at Antarctica. Okay, because the average temperature down there is well below freezing, or so they say. But it's even if you make all these, even if you assume all these things that you were taught in school that you really don't know whether it's true or not. It's the idea that there could be enough warming to melt enough ice to rise the sea levels by any amount is absurd. Totally and completely absurd. Okay, and it's just so incredible because I've seen this speech like half a dozen times, or parts of it. We all know all of it. I mean, I don't know when the last time I actually sat through the entire speech, but I know I've heard the whole speech, and it's the same speech over and over. And he bounces from incredible claim to incredible claim, and it's so densely filled with ridiculous bullshit. Okay, it's like it's a different kind of incoherent than Biden and the Democrats, because the Biden and Democrats have long had a reputation of being barely intelligible. Like what are you guys even talking about? But this is like a different kind of. unintelligible, and people like lap it up. It's a different kind of false. I don't know. I can't explain it, but let's take this for an example.
It's jobs in America. I will end Joe Biden's war on American energy and unleash our most powerful economic weapon. This is our most...
Okay, so Donald Trump started the war on energy. Okay, Donald Trump initiated the cabal's war on energy. Okay, it's not just exclusively Biden's war on energy. Okay, because when you listen, you guys, I need you to listen to me very carefully. When you shut a country down, okay, the demand for energy goes down. Okay, now when Trump shut the country down unnecessarily, in my opinion, okay, the price of oil went from $50-$60 a barrel maybe down to below zero. There was a day where oil futures contracts were trading below zero, at least a few hours. Okay, that in turn knocked all these fracking concerns out of business because many of those people were heavily leveraged. Many of those fracking companies, they were fracking for oil. They weren't ExxonMobil. They weren't ExxonMobil. They weren't ConocoPhillips. They weren't. I can't even remember the names of them anymore. Shell, whoever. But all these super huge British Petroleum, or it's Beyond Petroleum now, maybe, I can't remember. The Saudi company. Okay, those people had enough cash to weather, and enough storage and enough just capital to be able to last out a few days. With oil being below zero. Or below 20. Okay. See, because it costs like, maybe the last time I looked at it, it costs like $20 or $30 to pull a barrel of oil out of the ground with fracking. But the Saudis could pull a barrel of oil out of the sand for less than $10. So plus they had enough capital to go on to have some break even, to have a few weeks of break even, performance. But a lot of the production in the United States was from the frackers, and they didn't have enough, and they couldn't weather the storm. Okay, that knocked a ton of production offline. Then when they brought demand back online, that's when the prices started to go up, right? And then Biden started the war in Ukraine, and that made it worse. Okay, Donald Trump was the guy who started the war on energy. You guys need to think about this stuff and a little bit less. You can't just let this guy rev you up. Okay, I'll let him do this. What he was going to say next.
Economic weapon. This is our most powerful economic weapon. You know what it is? Drill, baby, drill. Most powerful weapon we have. We will stop Joe Biden's inflation disaster, and we will rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world with tax cuts, regulation cuts.
See, that was a trade this drill baby drill stuff. I mean, that's just so vapid. It's so meaningless. It's so shallow. I mean, it's just like that's not the whole answer. Not even, or really. I mean, I guess part of the answer that might be able to help, but that's not even a decision that he gets to make as president. Okay, and the whole thing with the oil price. That was a beautiful trade. Okay. That was kind of like a pump and dump. Where where the price of oil was like historically moderate at the beginning of the pandemic. So then they crashed the market, right? Pick up shares and then pick up futures and shares and barrels of oil on the at the when the, about when they knew it would be about when they should have been able to predict it was going to happen. I mean, because as far as like your average investor, I mean, who ever heard of shutting the fucking country down for a cold? And then the price rebounds, right? And then you buy the bottom, and then you buy the bottom, and then you sell the top, which is exactly what Trump and Biden did. Okay, they're in this together. Trump crashed the market, bought a bunch of barrels of oil when it was like super cheap at the bottom. Then he passes the baton off to Biden, and Biden sells it high. But Trump picks up a bunch of barrels for the strategic oil reserve that we have. And then Biden dumps it back out onto the market at a huge profit. I mean, and it like, that's what, and now we're like, and the idea was that should bring the price down. It didn't really. It stopped and I don't know if they're still doing that. But sooner or later, if we're like out of oil, then this World War III that he keeps talking about too is going to be impossible to fight.
Cuts, energy price cuts, and interest rates cuts like you've never seen before. We had a 2% interest rate, and now it's 8, 9, and 10%, and you can't get the money anyway. So what difference is there? Nobody's buying houses anymore. And unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, I will always protect Social Security and Medicare for our great seniors, because Ron wanted to obliterate Social Security, and he wanted to raise the minimum age to 70 or even 75. When I get back into the Oval Office, we will totally obliterate the rest of the deep state. We're going to obliterate it.
He's not going to obliterate the deep state. He didn't do it when he was president.
And we will together restore law and order in our country. History of the world, with tax cuts, regulation cuts, energy price cuts, and interest rates cuts like you've never seen before. We had a 2% interest rate, and now it's 8, 9, and 10%, and you can't get the money. We developed the technology, nobody else, by the way. A lot of people are like, oh, we developed the technology. No, technology was developed by us. And it works. I mean, you see it. Ronald Reagan wanted to do it, but at that time, they really didn't have the technology. The concept was good, but they did. We have unbelievable technology. You can shoot a needle out of the air. It's incredible. But we do that. Wouldn't you feel a little safer, a little more comfortable if we could do that? And it's jobs in America. I will end Joe Biden's war on American energy and unleash our most powerful economic weapon. This is our most powerful economic weapon. You know what it is?
All right, you guys, if there's some dead air there, I apologize for it. This is where I wanted to pick up.
We will stop Joe Biden's inflation disaster, and we will rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world.
Okay. The inflation, the hyperinflation, the planned and deliberate hyperinflation prophesied by John 2,000 years ago in the book of Revelation was Trump's responsibility too. Okay. Trump signed into law a $6.2 trillion CARES Act. Okay, at the beginning of the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of the national emergency. That was passed almost unanimously by a Republican-controlled Senate and a Democrat-controlled House. Okay, they can't agree on nothing else. But at the beginning of the pandemic, they got together and passed and signed into law a $6.2 trillion stimulus spending package. Okay, you don't think that's going to have an inflationary effect? And then all these dopes in the Republican Party are like Biden inflation this and Biden inflation that. Yeah, the money that's going to Ukraine, the money that's going to Israel, now that Israel is attacking they're like have launched an offensive against the civilian population of Gaza. Yeah, all that doesn't help. None of that helps. Okay, but the American Rescue Plan only cost 1.9 billion. Trillion billion. I mean, at this point, it's like, what does that even mean anymore? But the American Rescue Plan was only $1.9 trillion compared to the 6.2 trillion from the CARES Act. Okay. And then when I was in South Dakota at the Trump rally, I was talking to a Trump dope, and he said, no, he didn't. And it's like, and how do you even deal with that? What do you mean, no, he didn't? Okay, now, I know some of you people don't like Wikipedia, but according to Wikipedia, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, also known as the CARES Act, is a $2.2 trillion economic stimulus bill passed by the 116th U.S. Congress and signed into law by President Donald Trump on March 27th, 2020, in response to the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. All right, so you don't like Wikipedia, I get it, okay? This is from congress.gov, okay? See, the 116th Congress of the United States of America. That's the source of this. At the second session began and held at the city of Washington on Friday, the 3rd day of January, 2020, an act to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to repeal the high excise tax on high-cost employer-sponsored health coverage. Okay, and there's even a backstory behind that, because these spending bills have to originate in the House before they can they have to originate in the House, and then there's a whole weird backstory behind that. Okay, Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act. So they basically took this bill from the House of Representatives and they totally changed everything in it. And then they sent it back to the House. So it passed the Senate before it passed the House, which was a Republican Senate. The Republicans didn't try to stop it. They supported it. They voted for it. Ben Sass postured. He offered an amendment that was like, people weren't supposed to get paid more to stay at home than they got paid to go to work. But the amendment failed and he still voted for the bill. So, Trump and the Republicans. Okay, now, it's the issue of the $2.2 trillion that Wikipedia claims. Okay, so the Wikipedia claims that it was a $2.2 trillion spending. What I seem to remember was $2.9 trillion. Okay, what I remember, and I'm like, I don't want to dwell on this too long, because there's other different ways where you can look at the spending that's Trump did in the last 9 months compared to the first 9 months of Biden. Okay, and it bears out this idea that Trump, I mean, if you're going to use the lesser of two evil, that Trump is at least as responsible for the inflation. Okay, but let's listen to what Trump has to say.
Now, I'm going to sign this, and it's a great honor. $6.2 trillion. I've never signed anything with a T on it. I don't know if I can handle this one, Mitch. We can't chicken out at this point, can we? I don't think so, huh? All right, thank you all.
So there you go, $6.2 trillion. Right from his own mouth. So, I mean, like, I don't remember. Like I said, I don't remember. What I remember was they were saying 2.9 trillion, and then later that year they did another one. But I don't know. Maybe it was already all on the books right there. He claims it was, and there's him signing it. the CARES Act. And they still got these stupid context boxes on code crap. President Trump signs coronavirus economic relief bill. Okay. It's called the CARES Act. Okay, here comes another
It's
good one.
inflation disaster, and we will rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world with tax cuts, regulation cuts, energy price cuts, and interest rates cuts like you've never seen before. You know, we had a 2% interest rate, and now it's 8, 9, and 10%, and you can't get the money anyway. So what difference is there? Nobody's buying houses anymore. And unlike...
You can't, like, he's not going to get the interest rates to come down again. You can't do what you did these people did over the past 4 years, and like, you're gonna believe him that he's gonna get interest rates down. Okay, they were held artificially low for, you know, all through Obama and Trump, and now they're like. And now they've skyrocketed out of control because of all the money that they printed, that Trump printed, and then that Biden printed. There's nothing. The interest rates are going to continue to be out of control, no matter whether he gets back into office or not.
Like Ron DeSanctimonious, I will always protect Social Security and Medicare for our great seniors, because Ron wanted to obliterate Social Security, and he wanted to raise the minimum age to 70 or even 75. When I get back into the Oval Office, we will totally obliterate the rest of the deep state. We're going to obliterate it.
He didn't obliterate any of the deep state.
And we will together restore law and order in our country. We will completely overhaul the DOJ to investigate every Marxist prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. And on day one, I will also sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children.
Okay, so this is another thing that I wanted to do, because we've been hearing a lot of rhetoric from Trump lately about transgender insanity, like he's like always been against it or something. Okay, so I want to show you a few things. Okay, and another thing that Trump usually a lot of times when he criticizes Biden or DeSanctimonious. He talks about how DeSantis flip-flopped on Social Security and how he used to want to cut it, but now he's saying that he doesn't want to cut it. And then whenever a politician changes their position in the middle of an election cycle, that you could probably count on the fact that their original thought, their original position is what their position continues to be, and it's what they'll do. So check this out. This is a New York Times article. Ted Cruz attacking Donald Trump. Uses transgender bathroom access as cudgel. Okay? And Cruz mentions it constantly in Indiana, while polls showing a narrow lead for Trump in Indiana than in the 5 interstate. Donald Trump and Hillary... Okay, so this is a quote from Cruz. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton both agree that grown men should be allowed to use the little girl's restroom, Mr. Cruz said on Tuesday night as a crowd in Knightstown, Indiana, booed heartily. He made the remarks after coming before the crowd with his 2 daughters, 7 and 5, who wore matching pink dresses. Mr. Cruz has alternated between mockery and outrage nearly every day in highlighting Mr. Trump's stance, seizing on it after Mr. Trump said last week that people should be free to use the bathroom they feel is appropriate. Mr. Trump was responding to the furor over a North Carolina law that stripped legal protections from gay and transgender people. And he actually said a little bit more than that. He kind of like, I remember seeing it and listening to it, and he kind of like, does what he always does. Says like they should be able to use the bathroom they feel is appropriate. Then he gets quoted kind of out of context because he kind of doubles back and says, but North Carolina has the right to make their own laws, and kind of try to make it like he's supporting states' rights. Like it's up to the states on whether, like for him, I can remember them specifically asking about Trump Tower, asking him whether people in Trump Tower, transgenders in Trump Tower, could be used to could whether he would have a problem with transgenders using the bathroom of their choice at Trump Tower, and he said he wouldn't have a problem with that. Okay, so that's kind of how that was framed, but he wasn't like calling it transgender insanity. Okay, and that's before they threw the whole girls and the boys sports mix, or boys and girls sports into the mix. That happened, a few months, maybe a year later, where they started in with that. Okay, you guys, who appointed Milley? Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was appointed chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff by President Donald Trump, making Milley the 10th U.S. Army officer to be chairman. Okay, so this is something I just want to. This is why I don't like Wikipedia, and I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole too far. But look, the United States Armed Forces have a long history of transgender service personnel dating back to at least the Civil War. That's not true. That's just false. That's a false. All right, so while we wait for this article to load, here's just some search results. Donald Trump amends stance on North Carolina. Trump transgender people can use whatever bathroom. Trump transgender people have a right to choose bathroom. Trump administration reverses transgender bathroom guidance. That was in February 2017. Rescinded Obama guidance directing schools to allow transgender to use. Okay, so after he gets into office, he does start to shift. That's when he started to shift on it. But when he was the candidate, he was anti-trans. He was all for it. Okay. Donald Trump was asked about anti-transgender bathroom. Trump voices opposition to North Carolina bathroom law. Okay, so he kind of straddled the issue. Now he's super hawkish on it, characterizing it as transgender insanity. He is, but I mean, again, I wouldn't trust him for anything. That he's going to actually do anything about it if he got elected. And he was, they were all over the place on this. He was all over the place. They were all over the place. The generals, whoever. Okay, and I don't know whether he ever actually did reinstate. I guess the ban had been deinstated by Obama, and now that he was going to reinstate it, but whether he ever did or not, because the generals were claiming they weren't going to reinstate it. Like, if he doesn't, don't they have to do what they tell him to do? What he tells them to do if he's the president? Don't they have to follow his orders? But, I mean, the transgender stuff is a mess. So, moving on.
And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or any mask mandate. We're not getting it.
The CARES Act the spending that the CARES Act authorized, Trump used part of that, to buy and pay for 500 million doses before it was even approved for emergency use. Okay, and I'm not even gonna comment on the face coverings.
There will be no mask mandates. And incredibly, that I even have to say this because it's so ridiculous that it could even be a subject, I will keep men out of women's sports.
You couldn't keep them out of women's
and
sports.
And just as I did for 4 years very successfully, nobody's done it like I did, I will fully uphold our great Second Amendment. I will fully uphold.
That's a conversation for a different day. There's some research that I have to do, and I want to make sure I do it right before I comment on that. But Trump is not nearly as pro Second Amendment as he postures. And he's definitely against the First, the Third, the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth, the Seventh.
And I will continue to protect innocent life. We will restore quickly free speech, and I will totally secure our elections so catastrophic results like we had cannot be had again. That can't have to happen.
Okay, so this is how we'll wrap this up. We'll go back to Sioux City, and we'll go back to when he was talking about this in Sioux City and what I said to him. So just before we watch, I'll show you a couple things on this. This actually ended up getting 600 over almost 650 views so far. A few of them have been mine, granted, but I mean well over 600, which is a high number for me, and much higher on YouTube. And if you look at here, Heckling Trump short, 7 comments, 83.3% like versus dislike. I really don't like how they don't show it there, but over on BitChute I got ratioed. It was flipped. I think I was the only one that liked it. I got about 50 views, which isn't like a lot of my BitChute videos will get over 500 views. Sometimes it takes a couple months, but they might get 100 or 200 in the first 96 hours, and then after that it kind of falls off. But there's still some of them that are still steadily picking up views, and it's like other video social media addicts like me. But anyway, this is Trump making the claim in Sioux City that he was going to stop the election, the cheating in the elections.
340. But they all knew it wasn't. You know, it was big cheating. A lot of cheating they did. And stuffing the boxes. You see that? You saw that with 2,000 mules, didn't you? 2,000 mules. You ever see? Try getting a copy of 2,000 mules. Try getting a copy. Somebody said, I'd like to get 2,000. They made it almost impossible to get a copy of 2,000 mules. You did it. Dinesh did a great job.
Yeah. How are you going to stop them from cheating when you couldn't do it when you were president?
You're right.
I know I'm right.
How?
We're watching it now. We have the best teams of people in the
You couldn't stop it when you were president. How are you going to do it this time?
The cheating, you're not going to have a country.
You gave him COVID on a silver platter.
So we're going to stop. We're going to stop the cheating. People aren't going to let
You gave him the wide open door to drive the fraud truck through. You threw the election. Biden couldn't steal anything. You threw it. Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
All right. So, yeah, did you guys hear that woman screaming, "Get out, get out, get out"? See, Trump that's how he used to handle his hecklers. At the beginning, he would be like, "Get him out of here." Now he just ignores it because he's got his audience. He's got all his flunkies trained to scream "Get out" at you or chant USA or whatever. They all rush to Trump's defense. So anyway, that's it for right now. Like, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell. Check me out on BitChute, Rogue Diabetic, ROGUE-DIABETIC. Leave a comment in the comment section if you like. If you made it this far in this marathon digital wilderness Rogue Diabetic-a-thon video about Trump. So I'm out.